Okay, this should be a fairly quick tutorial that I can do in real time. A friend of mine had asked me how I would create a piece of paper with the corner folded over in InDesign. And typically I would say to use Illustrator or Photoshop, but I do enjoy a challenge, so let's see what I can do. So I'm going to start by creating a box that has the same dimensions as a piece of paper. Go figure. And for now, I'm going to give it a manila kind of color. And next, we're going to want to create a box that's going to be what we use to cut off the corner of our paper. So turn it 45 degrees and position it. And then I'm going to create a copy of this setup right here because I want one copy of the corner and one for the sheet of paper itself. Then we'll go to our Pathfinder and then use the intersect and subtract tools to get the parts we need. Next, I'm going to move it into place and use the Alt key while dragging to mirror it. And this here is a classic example of what we want. I think I'll go ahead and add a black stroke to it again. And there's a few other things that we can do to make it look better. So I'm going to make a copy of this, and we'll start working on a more realistic version. First, on the triangle, I want to add a gradient because that's going to give a more natural sense of lighting and shadowing. However, we want to make sure that that gradient is on the fill and not the stroke. And as far as the angle, it should be 45 degrees, but I'm going to go ahead and use the gradient tool over here because that'll get it right the first time and it's easy. No, I want to reverse that. Make the shadow smaller. And you know what, this will work for now, we'll come back. Let's go ahead and add the drop shadow. An essential aspect to making it look like the paper is actually folded over. And I like to make my shadows fairly close and soft. Plus I'll turn down the opacity to 20 to 30%. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create a hard shadow. This is a little more advanced, but basically I'm going to copy this triangle. I'm going to change the fill completely black. I'm going to remove the effects on it and turn the opacity down to, again, about 20 or 30%, and then place it underneath the corner of the paper. And I'm going to stretch it just to make it a little bit bigger, which that's probably too much. Let's dial it back a little. Okay, that's good. Alright, now let's revisit the coloring of the paper itself. It should be a grayish color. I'll probably turn that to a gradient in just a bit. Let's take a look at what we've got. Getting much closer to a more realistic result. However, I want to go ahead and take a look at the example my friend gave me. Clearly this was done in Illustrator. And what I see is that their shadows are much softer. What you want to aim for is the illusion of natural lighting and shadowing, not necessarily hard shadows. That being said, I'm going to go back and make the gradient on the corner a lot softer. And next I'm going to add a faint gradient to the body of the paper itself. Nothing too harsh, just a subtle gradient to give the illusion of natural lighting. And now it's starting to look pretty good, but there's still a couple of things that we can do to really make it punch. First, I'm going to group these together by selecting the segments and hitting Ctrl G. Then I'm going to start adding some lines to the paper. Once I'm sure that I have it sized right, I'll hold Alt and Shift while tapping the down key. Then select all of your lines, Ctrl G to group them, resize and position them, and then finally copy them over to your other sheet of paper. We'll make the color of these a light grayish blue. And that just about wraps it up. However, I think that we can also add a drop shadow to each of these sheets. Let's go back to the effects panel. And create something kind of soft. A lot of this comes down to personal preference and just whatever you're doing at the time. Not bad, but I think it needs to be from the right or left, not up and down. There we go. That looks better. Okay, and then we'll apply this shadow to our other piece of paper. And that wraps things up in just over 8 minutes. Hope it helps you.